Today on the show, in the wake of Jussie Smollet, you and I take a good hard look at the hate crime statistics in America.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, you and I, we are still in America, and therefore we are still innocent until proven guilty. But if things shake out the way they appear to be shaking out at the moment, Jussie Smollet faked a hate crime, staged a hate crime, paid a couple people to commit an assault, make it look like a hate crime, and he did this. Why? He did this, well, for a couple different reasons. One, attention. Two, money. Allegedly, he was unhappy with the salary he was getting paid on that show Empire. So he pulled off a publicity stunt, which would make him seem, at the same time, both a hero and a martyr, raising his public profile and America's admiration for him significantly, as it did there for a minute before things started to go south, and getting him a larger role and a bigger salary on that show. That's what it looks like at the moment. Like I said, we live in America where we are innocent until proven guilty. And you and I have talked about this over the last week or so as details have started to come in. We didn't want to jump in all half-cocked, screaming and yelling. We wanted to wait, sit back, and see what happened, and then make an assessment. And you and I have been talking about this, and as we've been talking about this, it seems as though the real shame, besides the waste of police resources, is that somebody like this detracts from the problem. You become the boy that cries wolf. And when somebody else does cry wolf, when there is inequality, when there is injustice, when there is a hate crime, when there is any of the above, well, people are less likely to listen. They're like, oh, is this just another Smollett case? That's, I think, the biggest crime. Here's the thing, though. One useful aspect of the Jussie Smollett situation is that it's actually started to bring to light some similar situations. Are you familiar with a guy called Nikki Jolie? Nikki Jolie, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the last name right. Nikki Jolie is a transgender man. But back in 2017, Nikki Jolie's home burned down. Horrible. What was even more horrible was that it killed 5 pets. And the FBI investigated it as a hate crime because Jolie, a transgender man, had supposedly received death threats after pushing for an anti-discrimination law. Jolie had received death threats after organizing the city's first gay festival and having opened the first gay community center in the area. After a long investigation into this hate crime of Nikki Jolie's home being burned down, tragically killing 5 pets, authorities now believe that Jolie was the one who intentionally set the fire. From the Detroit News, quote, Jolie told police that on the morning of the fire, he bought $10 of gas at a marathon station so he could cut his grass. He began to mow, but it got too hot, so he stopped with the backyard half done. He went to work at a church, got a call at 1:02 p.m. This is what the police report said. Jolie was asked to grab a lunch and drop it off for someone, his significant other. They share one car. So he went home 2 miles away from the church where he worked, went inside for a minute or two, and left. By 1:16, a fire was reported by neighbors. Here's the thing. The sequence of events would have made it difficult for anyone but Jolie to set the fire. And police are saying the timeline shows a window of less than 5 minutes for another person to enter the residence, splash some gas around, ignite a fire, and then leave without being at the scene. Jolie told the insurance company that the arsonist must have been in the home at the same time he was. Lab tests by cops found traces of gasoline on the clothes Jolie was wearing on the day of the fire. Didn't own the house, wasn't an insurance job, didn't collect any insurance money, but did receive $58,000 in donations. However, according to cops, Jolie suggested to friends that he was upset about the diminished attention being paid to his advocacy in the wake of the anti-discrimination law's passage, which they view as a potential motive. A drag queen who helped solicit donations for Jolie, a person who seems as though they burned down their own home, faked a hate crime against them, killing 5 pets, saying, "I feel as though I was used for a money scam." The drag queen that was helping raise donation money in the wake of this person's home being burned down said, "I feel as though I was used for a money scam." It hurt. It still does. So, the Smollet situation seems tragic and unthinkable, and it detracts from people that need the attention of the police. It detracts from people that actually are the victims of discrimination or inequality or of a hate crime. But one thing about it is it's brought to light that this is not an isolated thing. Faking a hate crime for attention, for financial gain, for all the above, is apparently beginning to be slightly well-worn territory. Now, to you and I, it seems unthinkable. What, are you kidding me? This person would burn down their home, killing 5 of their pets in order to get some money, a little political leverage, some sympathy, some notoriety. Jussie Smollet would have himself beat up because he thought it would be a good way to further his career. Again, make some more money. Yeah. Unbelievably sad, but apparently we're seeing more and more often true. Prominent LGBT activists in Michigan arrested for burning down their own house to make it appear as a hate crime. Here's something that's very interesting about crimes and hate crimes in general. Oh, we'll get to it next.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So Jussie Smollett paid people to have him beat up. It would seem. Again, this is America. We are innocent until we are proven guilty, but as more and more details start to come in, that certainly seems to be the case. Smollett faked a hate crime. Why? Well, allegedly he was unhappy with the amount of money he was getting paid to be on Empire. He thought this would paint him in a more sympathetic light, raise his profile, make him a bit of a hero. Therefore, right around the time his contract was to be renegotiated, it would be a significantly chubbier one. And then a prominent LGBT activist in Michigan was just arrested for burning down their own house to make it appear as though it was a hate crime. And in burning down their home, they tragically killed 5 pets. And if this works out to be true, then I hope they are prosecuted to the full extent of the law for killing 5 animals. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. But here's something interesting about crime. Here's something interesting about hate crimes in general. Ever hear of Wilfred Riley? Wilfred Riley, well, he's a political science professor at a historically predominantly African American attended school. And he's done pretty extensive research. I mean, that's his job. And it's of special interest to him. He teaches political science at a predominantly African American institution of higher education. In 2019, people are going to start really questioning the racial divide in America and the implications therein and what a hate crime looks like. He is, like I said, a professor of political science at Kentucky State University. And he's got a new book coming out. It's called Hate Crime Hoax. Now, I want you to hear me on this. I'm not denying the existence of hate crimes. I'm not denying the existence of racism. I'm not denying the existence of massive cultural divides dictated by the color of skin in America. These are real problems. They are, in my humble opinion, getting worse and they need to be addressed. Which is why it's important that we talk about this sort of thing. Race should be a non-issue. Race, this should have been our grandparents' problem. Any kind of racial discrimination, that should have gone the way of the dodo with Abraham Lincoln. And it's shameful that it exists in the world, let alone in America. We pride ourselves on being first to the party. We pride ourselves on being enlightened. We pride ourselves, if you talk to a lot of people, on being a nation of God. And you know, the Bible doesn't specifically mention hate crimes, but I think we could all agree, pretty freaking bad idea in the eyes of the Lord. If you subscribe to that sort of thing. So the fact that any kind of divide exists in America is shameful. But it is interesting to note that the physical hate crime, when people talk about this, there becomes a rather evident statistical anomaly. And, well, after this investigation, it comes out that a great many hate crime stories turn out to be hoaxes. What Jussie Smollet seems unthinkable. It's more common than we imagined. What Nikki Jolie did, or what we think Nikki Jolie did, what Nikki Jolie has been arrested for, faking a hate crime and burning down their own home, in the process killing 5 pets, seems unthinkable. And it is. It is the act of an insane person to do something like that. But as it turns out, a great many hate crime stories turn out to be hoaxes. If you look at what happened to the most widely reported hate crime stories over the past 4 to 5 years, it illustrates this. Not only the Smollett case, but also the Yasmin Seawood Air Force Academy, Eastern Michigan, Wisconsin Parkside, Keene College, Covington Catholic, and Hopewell Baptist burning racial scandals all turned out to be not what they seemed, not what they were reported as. And if faking a hate crime sounds insane to you, it's because it absolutely is. But it's not as uncommon as we think. Doing research for this book, Hate Crime Hoax, he says, I was able to easily put together a data set of 409 confirmed hate hoaxes. An overlapping but substantially different list of 348 hoaxes exists at fakehatecrimes.org. And researchers put together another list of at least 300 in a book called Crying Wolf. To put these numbers in context, a little over 7,000 hate crimes were reported by the FBI in 2017. Perhaps 8 to 10% of these are widely reported enough to catch the eye of a national researcher or reporter. Why do hoaxers hoax? In some cases, the motivations are tawdry and financial. Jussie Smollet wanted to make himself a sympathetic figure to boost his salary. However, the motivations of many hoaxers are honorable, but tremendously misguided. In college campus hate hoax cases, like Keene College and University of Chicago, the individuals responsible almost invariably say that they staged the incidents to call attention to real incidents of racist violence on campus. So you start to see how this insanity happens. You start to unpack how it happens. These things do exist. Hate, division, racism are genuine problems in America. But the answer is in no way, shape, or form staging incidents to call attention to a problem. It just makes people who want to deny the existence of racism dig their heels in that much more. Media giants leap to publicize hate crimes. They're later revealed to be fakes. Organizations line up around the block to defend victims who aren't really victims. And it's incredibly misguided. It's insane. But hate crime hoaxers are calling attention to a problem. And the problem is real. But here's the thing, there's very little brutally violent racism in the modern US of A. There are less than 7,000 real hate crimes reported in a typical year. Interracial crime is very rare. 84% of white murder victims and 93% of black murder victims are killed by criminals of their own race. And the person most likely to kill you is your ex-wife or husband. When violent interracial crimes do occur, white people are at least as likely to be the targets as are minorities. Simply put, Klansmen armed with nooses are not lurking around Chicago street corners. Now, those last words aren't my words. Those are the words of a professor of political science at a predominantly and historically African-American school. So what's the point here? It's not to deny the existence of racism.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
So, at this stage in the game, I'm fairly certain that there are a couple of people seething with anger because the conversation we're having is sort of a difficult one to stomach. Basically, I'm saying that according to all the research that has been amassed, a lot of it by a political science professor at a historically and predominantly African-American college, guy by the name of Wilfred Riley, violent hate crimes in America are rare. Interracial crime is quite rare. 84% of white murder victims and 93% of black murder victims are killed by criminals with their own color of skin. The person most likely to kill you, if you're going to be killed, that would be your ex-wife or your ex-husband. When a violent crime occurs, when a violent interracial crime occurs, statistically speaking, white people are at least as likely to be the targets as minorities. Now, if these words sound like the words of someone who is denying the existence of racism, if that's what has you feeling a little uncomfortable listening to this, don't be. The truth, my friend, the truth is what will set us free. The truth is what will help us get there. The truth is not a comfortable narrative. But the truth is what will eventually get us to what we talk about pretty much every single day on this show, and that is equality. You start to see how this sort of thing happens. Now, obviously, there are crass examples of hate crime hoaxes. People like Jussie Smollet thinking it's going to further their career, help them make more money. Paint them in a sympathetic light, make them a hero. And that's despicable. But there are many more instances of people faking a hate crime to draw attention to real-life racism. Do you remember when you were a kid and you're trying to stay home from school because you were sick? Throwing up was kind of a big deal. Like, if you were sick and you threw up, your parents would say, okay, you're definitely staying home. Or the school nurse would say, you're definitely going home. You vomit, you can't be in school. But if you say, my tummy hurts, I feel like I might throw up, chances are you're being packed off to school on the school bus. Chances are you're being told to take it easy for a second, then get back to class and do your work. You might genuinely be sick. Racism, prejudice, inequality, treating somebody differently because of the color of their skin, treating someone differently because of their gender, their race, their sexuality, any of the above is a sickness. It's a sickness that we should have evolved past. It's a sickness that we should have had the vaccine to a long time ago. It's a sickness that should have gone away with Abraham Lincoln. It's a sickness that should have gone away with the Emancipation Proclamation. It's a sickness. But if you don't have the physical evidence of this sickness, it becomes a little bit more difficult to prove. It becomes a tougher road to hoe when you're trying to get it the attention that it deserves. And the Smollets of the world aside, people that would fake a hate crime so that they can benefit from it financially, so that they can raise their profile, so that they can become a hero of oppressed people, people that have been victims of actual prejudice, people that have actually been held down, people that have actually experienced suffering in their life because they did not win the genetic lottery, they did not end up a white male in America. Well, that's a whole other thing, and that's despicable. But there's a lot of folks that fake this sort of thing because they can't come up with a physical example of this. I feel I'm being discriminated against. Okay, prove it. Well, it becomes harder to do. Not saying it doesn't exist. Not saying it isn't there. And I bring all this stuff up for a very important reason. You are going to start hearing more and more about this sort of thing. It's like what happened with Harvey Weinstein and Me Too. There will be an ensuing hashtag for faked hate crimes. There will be people that use the Jussie Smollets of this world as an argument against the existence of prejudice and racism. See, we're so non-prejudiced and non-racist, he had to hire someone to fake racism. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But this will become a thing. This will become a thing. You're going to start hearing more and more about faked hate crimes on a regular basis. Because as it turns out, as insane as it seems, and certainly when you're like the person, Nikki Jolie, that we were talking about earlier, that was arrested for burning their own home down, faking a hate crime and killing 5 pets, that's pure insanity. You are mentally unwell if you're willing to kill 5 animals to paint yourself in a sympathetic light and raise a few bucks and political awareness for whatever the hell cause it is you're touting. It's despicable, it's awful, and it is the act of an insane person. But you're going to start hearing more of this sort of thing. The way one Harvey Weinstein incident led to another. People are going to get rolling on this one. You're going to start hearing about faked hate crimes left, right, and center. Wait, watch, listen. You will. And these will typically probably be used by people who want to deny the existence of racism and prejudice, saying, see, there's no racism. They have to fake it to get the attention they want to get. And that's a real shame. And that's why we have to have these difficult conversations. That's why we have to get in touch with the reality of what hate and racism looks like in America. That's why we have to make ourselves aware of masses of hate crime hoaxes. That's why we have to make ourselves aware of the fact that, well, guys in hoods aren't hanging around on every street corner with nooses. Does racism exist in America? Absolutely. Do we need to do something about it? For sure. Is it getting worse in 2019? It certainly feels like it. I would say we have to be smarter. I would say we have to be more vigilant. I would say we have to treat every situation more carefully. But that's not it. That's not the solution. The solution, my friend, lies in compassion for you and me. The solution lies in making a genuine effort to stamp out racism by leading with our examples. People resort to faking hate crimes out of desperation. I mean, the ones that aren't doing it for personal gain do it because they genuinely feel something. They just don't have the evidence of it. Therefore, they do something so unbelievably stupid that minimizes hate and racism in America. It's so misguided. It's so stupid, but you understand sort of why it happens. I'm not sympathizing with people that would mislead you into thinking that a hate crime has been perpetrated, but that's why it happens. Because of a lack of compassion. So what do we do to stamp out this insidious, harder to spot, don't have the physical evidence of it brand of racism and inequality in America? We open our hearts and we live in a more compassionate way. We do the simple things. We go the extra mile to treat people how they want to be treated. We go the extra mile to treat people how we want to be treated. We go the extra mile to see people for who they are. We go the extra mile to make the issue of race, gender, sex, sexuality, any of the above, a non-issue. Hate crime hoaxes will lead to a denial of racism in America. That will set us back further. Your love, your compassion your willingness to listen to people that feel like they haven't been listened to, no matter who they are, or where they're from, or what they look like, or who they choose to love, that will set us free.
To get washed away.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So, what is your favorite form of social media? You and I will get into the events of today in our segment, My Witness News, in just a little bit. But what's your favorite form of social media? For me, it always has been and always will be Twitter, I think, unless something new comes along. Twitter's great if you're like me, if you're an out-of-market sports fan. It's a great way to feel connected to what's going on. And if you want to hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at ADSXE, or you can do the old-fashioned thing of emailing me, ad@iheartradio.com. But here's the thing about email, and Facebook messages for that matter as well. People tend to go on a little bit when they're not limited on the old characters. And I love a thoughtful exchange between people. However, when I get an email that says, "Dear AD, my issues with your choice of Metallica songs off of the Black Album, Chapter 1 of Wolf and Man, are you stupid?" Well, that lets me know I'm in for a long and bumpy ride, and I go, I don't have time to address this now. I'll put this in a folder of things to get to later. But Twitter is instant, and because you're limited on characters, well, I feel like I can respond quickly and effectively to everybody that hits me up. So if you're going to hit me up, do so on Twitter. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter what form of social media it is, doesn't matter what digital platform it is. I don't ever get mean or nasty or argue with people. It's just a pointless waste of time. It really, really is. Do you remember a couple of years back when the two big issues that consumed all of social media for an entire week were gay marriage and the Confederate flag? Do you remember that? Gay marriage and the Confederate flag for a whole week, and mostly over the weekend, because that's when people were free to really dig in. Gay marriage and the Confederate flag caused longer and more brutal and more protracted arguments online than anything else I've ever seen. People were just in a mood. And when the dust settled, I was like, yeah, what did any of this achieve? Absolutely nothing. People waste so much time arguing on Twitter, arguing on Facebook, arguing on whatever form of social media it is. And I made a decision. I didn't weigh in on those debates because I saw them droning on. I was like, I got stuff I want to do with my weekend, and no thank you. But I made a decision after that weekend when I saw just how many hours of people's lives were wasted on this. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to disagree with someone, I'm going to do it in person. I'm going to look them in the eyes and try and let them know that I'm coming from a good place when I say these things. I'm going to let them hear the tone of my voice. I'm going to let them see who I am and that I'm not screaming and yelling at them. Any argument, any disagreement, any debate that I do, I like to do in person. And I made a decision that weekend that I would not ever argue with someone online. And I also made the decision that I would never disagree with someone online. At first, it was a little difficult. I have to tell you, it was a little difficult at first because, look, I never really kind of counted it all up, and my bosses don't really count it all up because, well, once you find out how many people listen to you, you start to do things like, I don't know, ask to be paid what you're worth, and they couldn't have that, could they? But I would say the number of people that listen to me every single day are in the millions. And, well, that's really cool, but you can't go on the air and speak to that many people every single day without having somebody have some issue with what you do or say or play on my music radio stations or on here. And so there's going to be people that light you up on the internet. And when someone's screaming and yelling at you online, it's tough not to take the bait. It's tough not to want to defend yourself. But I made a decision. Not only would I not argue with people, I would never even disagree with people. So if someone said, "You suck," usually I would go, "No, I don't. Here's why." Or, "No, you suck." And I had to train myself not to do that stuff anymore. But you know what? Once I did, oh my gosh, it was a freeing thing. So I love Twitter. I love Twitter especially out of all the social media platforms. But I will never, ever disagree with someone online. Not something I do. Not only do I not argue with people, I will never disagree with someone online. And you know what? Neil Brennan made an interesting point when he brought up how quickly Twitter can devolve into mean-spiritedness.
Yeah, Twitter, remember when that was fun? 8-9 years ago? Now I didn't think it was going to make it because people would tweet the dumbest stuff. I was on there one day and some girl tweeted like, "Who here likes avocado toast?" I was like, all right, I got to delete this app. But now you go on there and it's just a prison riot 24 hours a day, like an all caps prison riot. Especially when there's a news story. Like basically how it works is CNN will tweet like, "Gunshots heard at local high school." And then someone else will be like, "Thoughts and prayers to the high school." And then someone else will be like, "Screw your thoughts and prayers. We're going to get AR-15s off the street." And then somebody else will be like, "You're all morons." And somebody else will be like, "We're morons. You just misspelled your." And at this point, I'm so freaked out that I'm like, who here likes avocado toast?
So, you and I, we never talked about it. But did you wind up watching the Oscars? If you're like me, you tend to avoid giant televised orgies of self-congratulations, so you gave it the big old misseroo. But I kind of watched the internet cliff notes the day after. Anything good happened, I'll watch it online after the fact. Adam Lambert started the show by performing with Queen because what says Hollywood's biggest night more than the guy who finished second on American Idol? What did you think of Adam Lambert? Did you see that? He's got a phenomenal voice. Like, he can really, really sing. And a lot of people were going, "Well, it's not Freddie Mercury." Well, that's the whole point. There never will be another Freddie Mercury ever. The guy was freaking unique. Not only as a person, but as a vocalist, as a singer. The tone of his voice was insane and will never be recreated, even by someone like Adam Lambert, who can sing his ass off. I thought it was good. I mean, what else were they going to do, really, when you think about it? I wasn't offended by it like a lot of people were. As much as you and I tend to give things like the Oscars the big misseroo, I did think it was interesting, didn't you, to find out that a movie about a lady's time of the month, if you know what I mean, and I think you do, took home an Oscar. Yeah, Best Documentary Short went to a movie about menstruation, which is really no surprise. Only because it's well known that the Academy loves period pieces. Yeah. New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, the world is still buzzing, thanks to the fact that he was busted for patronizing a Florida massage parlor that's a front for a sex trafficking ring, allegedly. Can't believe that a man would engage in criminal and or unethical behavior. Who's the owner of the New England Patriots? Said no one who's ever heard of the New England Patriots. Other NFL owners are apparently shocked, except for Jerry Jones. He always looks that way. It's weird, only because usually it's in the news when Kraft offers his players an extension. Guess that's what makes him a great owner. He really takes care of his staff. Oh, we're all out of show. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do this all over again. Have an awesome night.